Welcome back and thank you for clicking on today's video. This isn't a part 2 to my last video, but I did find another piece of this podcast as I was listening to it that I really wanted to touch on because I found it somewhat interesting, especially coming from Dr. Phil. So it's not really connected at all to the previous video, and I'm going to diversify the content after this, I promise. But I did find this extremely interesting. I'd love to know what you guys think about it as well. But I'm going to just get right into it.
And when you get to number 5, I'm going to consciously choose, which goes up to number 1, being who you are on purpose, which voices deserve the most attention in my life. And maybe it's your conversation with yourself. Maybe it's your conversation with God. Maybe it's your conversation with people outside your bubble. Maybe it's people that challenge what may be a confirmation bias. You have to decide which voices you choose to make an investment in.
One of the things I love that he talks about is you have to expand your knowledge base, challenge your ideas and your opinions, talk to people who disagree with you and love them anyway, but because you're talking to people who disagree with you, they might bring in more variables of information that you didn't have that can change your opinion. It can also ground you more in your opinions, challenging other people who don't have information that you do have. You can find out, oh, I was right about this certain thing. You become more confident in the way that you think about the world around you. This is another good attribute in leadership. It's a little bit of confidence in there too. You have to kind of trust your gut, but challenge your gut. Don't always assume that you're correct. You kind of have to go out into the world and seek knowledge. One of the things that really bugs me is when people can't leave their bubble and seek new information and wisdom and expand their own thoughts, and they kind of just stay confined and small-minded. It drives me mad. One of the things he said was really interesting about which voices deserve the most attention in your life, and it reminds me of this analogy. I'm going to butcher it. There's a white wolf in the light outside of the cave and a dark wolf in the dark inside the cave. Which wolf survives? It's a trick question. The one you feed is the one that survives. And it's about the same thing he's talking about with your thoughts, how you're supposed to feed certain thoughts that'll get you to a better place. You're not supposed to feed bad thoughts. Identify sources of inspiration, not sources of degradation.
And, I used to think I, have I've employed a lot of people in my life because I've always been entrepreneurial, and I know at times I've employed as many as 1,000 people in collective endeavors. And I used to think, for example, that if I had 2 people sitting in front of me that were the same in everything that I could determine, and the only difference was that one had been to college and one had not, that if there were no other tiebreakers, that frankly, I would tend to go with the one that had graduated from college, even if the degree was in art history or something that wasn't germane to the job I was hiring them for. And the reason was I knew something about that person I didn't know about the other. I knew they could sustain the pursuit of a long-term goal.
Right.
I knew they could get along with assholes. I knew they could work as a team. I knew they could meet deadlines. I knew that there were a lot of things about them that I knew that I didn't know about this other person. That other person could as well, but I knew that about this person. I don't know that anymore. I don't know that about college graduates anymore because now they don't have the attitude that it's their job to get along with the professor. It's their attitude that the professor has the job to get along with them. I have no idea how much their mind has been poisoned by what I've termed intellectual rot from some of these elite universities. So what I used to have as kind of a tiebreaker because I knew something about a graduate I didn't know about a non-graduate is not valid anymore. So I've had to change which voices I'm willing to listen to and what things I'm willing to give weight to. And so in being who I am on purpose, I've had to make adjustments as the world has changed around me.
I freaking love Dr. Phil. So he makes this wild leap. I see the connection once he explains it over to his employment of, a couple of people, and he's noticed certain patterns. In the past, he noticed that when he's employed people, having a college degree on their resume means that they have this interesting capability to complete a long-term goal, which not a lot of people have if you think about it nowadays. And he actually says that how it means not that much nowadays to have a degree on your resume, because there are just as many people without a degree that are going to be able to complete the job and have those long-term goal-making skills, because they're not exactly taught in college. The things that are taught in college are not career assessment skills. They're more like emotional and cultural things nowadays. And he even goes on to say it's getting pretty toxic, and he uses some other creative adjectives. But I agree in a way that I think you have to go to college with extreme focus and intent if you're really going to get a higher education out of it nowadays. When I went to college, I wasn't getting that, let alone my focus wasn't there. And when I heard him talking about this, I was like, oh shoot, if going to college teaches you how to fulfill long-term goals and make goals and be able to like follow through with things like that, maybe it would be smart for me to go back to college. Along with the evolution of technology, it's going to look completely different in the next couple of years what education you actually will need. While I agree with what Dr. Phil is saying, that it has changed and evolved over time, I don't think it's hopeless to go get a college degree. I think if you have a passion to do something within that education, higher education, you should go do it. And you should enlighten yourself to a higher level of focus so that you can achieve those goals and develop skill sets that are actually helpful. And don't let the toxicity and the current environment of education hold you back because of the way it is. It shouldn't be holding people back, because we need the smartest people and the most talented people with high level skill sets around. We need to be surrounded by them. And then I'm also a big fan of certification. I think if you go out, you get your certification, it doesn't cost a ton, you don't have to go into a ton of debt, and then early in your career, you can actually start your own business if you're smart and good with money. And that's pretty much all I got. There is always light at the end of the tunnel. Everything is constantly changing. You just have to brace yourselves and be ready for it. Thank you for watching the video up until this point. Much love. Click the like button. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.